Hello. Hi. I'm Alex Chando. Thank you for being here. I love that we fill a room. I have been with this festival from day one and have watched it grow and am so full of gratitude and inspiration, quite frankly, by the amount of growth that we've had as a festival and the amount of filmmakers, and especially female filmmakers, who have become part of the community. The first year, Tanner and Tomic brought me on originally to start the Female Filmmaker Initiative year one. And from year one until now, it's just, we've grown as an event. We've also, Blair Bomar and I partnered up and we did a podcast, and that grew. And now we're here. And one of the special things that I feel is very important to me is mentorship. And so this year, adding the mentorship aspect of this event is really exciting for me. So what the game plan is we are going to do a panel. It'll be brief-ish. And then we're going to partner off a few of the selected female filmmakers with our panelists in that side room over there, and then the rest of us will mix and mingle. So I want to get this started, and I would love to introduce these wonderful, groundbreaking women. And so I'll just do that. First, I'd love to introduce Yeardley Smith, who hi. I don't know if you know this, but she is the voice of Lisa Simpson. She also has 2 films in our festival, Who Are You People and Gossamer Folds. Producer, actor, all the things. Next we have Marina Cappi, who is head of Marina Studios, our title sponsor. And Katie Cassidy is also here, actor, director, writer. And Maria Bertrand, actor, writer, executive producer. And both Katie and Maria dabble in the NFT space, which we won't go down the rabbit hole, but we'll just touch on it. So, first of all, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
And so we've all I feel like we're all over the COVID questions, but for me, one of these last 2 years have really changed the trajectory of my life. I left LA, my home of 14 years, and I moved to Austin, Texas, to pursue more directing and producing and to really, quite honestly, just have a better quality of life. So I'm curious, for each one of you, what has these last 2 years, how has it changed not only your mindset, but maybe put you on a different career trajectory, given you a different perspective, led you to where you are now, and maybe that's not where you had anticipated?
It's a good and multi-layered question indeed. Well, I've been in LA for about 100 years.
Oh, you look fabulous.
Thanks. And I'm gonna get married for the 3rd time. Hooray!
Woo!
Thank you. And I'd always known I didn't want to die in LA, but I'd never actually found the place that I really wanted to go and sort of have even a vacation home. So Dan and I, he's from Oregon, and so we bought property in Bend, and I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get out. So I still have my house in Los Angeles because The Simpsons is still going. Best job in the world. Thank you for that. Really landed in the honeypot with that one.
Oh, we're gonna get into that because I think we all want to know about that.
Oh, it's so good. And just on the producing side, so I co-founded a production company called Paperclip Limited, based on 2 charters. 1, no assholes allowed, and 2, we wanted to be the first people to say yes. So, because it's so hard to get a yes in this business, so when the pandemic hit and we had a number of things really sort of ready to go, we just sort of gathered ourselves and decided that we would continue to develop, because we're primarily development, although we also do physical producing, so that when the doors finally swung open again, we would be right there and ready to go. The exhaustion, I think, is the biggest word. That I'm so mentally exhausted by all of it.
Yeah.
So.
Marina?
Wow. Well, I can tell you, without COVID, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now. The building that became my first studio would have never been a studio if it wasn't for COVID, because it was a sportsplex, and real estate in Boston is so hard to come by. But the owner couldn't keep it going without having kids playing indoor soccer. So I saw a business opportunity, having sat home with my twins who were 6 months old when COVID started. So I was locked at home, found every excuse to go to the office by myself. And I actually, I found this property after meeting Jeff and Dennis from Compelling Pictures, and I was like, well, this seems like a great next path, because I didn't know how long COVID would last, and wearing a mask, and I think everyone is so exhausted from that, and especially, with little kids, like trying to be careful, and every little move you make, just cautious, So it worked out perfectly, and my relationship with Compelling really grew, and I'll probably have 5 studios by the end of the year, which again probably wouldn't happen.
Good for you. That's awesome.
But I think a lot of people, actually how it affected me the most is I got to spend so much time with my family and make dinner every night because everything was closed, but also grow this incredible company. Right. So I think that's really how it was a blessing in disguise. So glad it's almost over.
Wow, this is a great question. So I was living in Vancouver. I was on Arrow for 9 years. Basically the show ended, Arrow ended. I had just directed one of my first episodes, went through the WB program, and now I was planning on shadowing all these other shows, which I started to until COVID hit. So November 2019, I moved back to Los Angeles. It basically have been, I've been very lucky, and I've worked almost since I was, I think, 17 years old. I'm now 35, so I've been very blessed and lucky. January 2020, I got myself out of an unhealthy marriage, so I filed for divorce. The shadow, yeah. Thank you. I shadowed a few episodes, and then we were all put into lockdown. And I haven't stopped going since, I don't know, I was 15, my whole life. And all of a sudden, the universe just pressed pause. And I have to say, I'm so, as hard and as terrible COVID is and was and all of it, I've really found my true calling, because I got the rights to this book franchise over the pandemic, and so I wrote a pilot, and then I ended up writing a short and directing it with basically 4 people. And I'm in the middle of editing it now, and I just have realized, right before the pandemic, Maria and I met each other. She wrote this amazing script called Daddy Issues, this feature that, you know, I went and met on several times, and I put my deck together, and I was like, I have 3 dads now too, so daddy issues, I've got a lot of them. Anyway, so I ended up meeting her because I was hired to direct the movie, just as, you know, 2020 hit. And 2020, I spent basically the writing, directing, but then also that's what inspired my NFT drop, because I was put into isolation alone, just me and my fur people. But I had so much gratitude for that coming out of an unhealthy relationship and an unhealthy marriage. And I really learned to embrace myself and love myself. And that's sort of when I realized that, you know, we can't have relationships with other people until we find our true calling and really step into our power for everyone, not just women. I think just men, everyone, until we really own who we are. So I just think overall, writing, directing, producing, acting, I love creating, I love collaborating, and that's what inspired my first NFT drop, Me, She, We. So I have a lot of gratitude.
Pandemic. Okay, so COVID started off not fun. I went through a breakup, my car got stolen, then my dog died. Right, yeah, awful. And I had moved into a temporary place that ended up being, I was there for all of COVID. And I have a very kind of unique experience with COVID because I ended up finding a tiny baby sparrow, 1 day old. And it turned out he had a damaged beak. So I finally found a rehabber, kept him alive for 2 weeks, gave him away. She called me and said, he's unreleasable, we're going to euthanize. And I was like, the whole world is shut down. This one little guy wants to live. So I went back and picked him up. Cut to, yeah, I have this sparrow who I live with who makes me feel like Snow White every day. His name is Happy. Yes, his beak is, he looks like he's smiling all the time because his
so
beak is
cute.
damaged. He's Happy the Sparrow on Instagram. You're welcome to go and have a good laugh at all of his antics. I wasn't even thinking anything movie related, even though that has been my trajectory in the industry I've been in, that and NFTs. An executive producer came to me, even though I executive produced, and was like, I want to fund a documentary about you and your bird. And I was like, what? So it was phenomenal because what's happened now is we've shot 3/4 of this documentary. I get to write, direct, and produce it. And it brings everything I love together because I've been passionate about animals my whole life, and I've run volunteer events for animals. So I get to raise awareness and compassion around animals while making a documentary. And I'm like, I get to leave this world, leaving something really cool behind. And it's called Finding Happy, and it's really about finding your happy in the end. So I found mine. You can't have mine, but you can find yours. Might not be a sparrow. And then I also work with Katie. We met right before the pandemic, like she said, because I wrote a script with my amazing writing partner named Mag McKegg called Daddy Issues. It's a 3-female lead comedy. It's one for the girls. Boys, you will enjoy it too, but ladies, this one's all for us. I do not advise writing a comedy with 3 leads. It is really difficult. But yeah, so we had brought Katie on board before the pandemic, then everything fell apart. We are just now attaching funding and trying to get that wheel going again. So yeah, really fun. And then we work on NFTs together as well. So yeah.
I think for many people, these last 2 years have really allowed us to dial in and get a really clear picture of our purpose and what we are kind of, what inspires us, what makes us want to keep going. So I just want to jump in with Yeardley because you started Simpsons in what year?
1986, I think. Yeah.
The year of my
I know.
birth.
Mine as well.
I know, right?
I wasn't born yet.
Oh, perfect. Wow, I'm 57 and still playing an 8-year-old.
Well, so yes, so let's talk
Amazing.
about this.
That's awesome.
Let's talk about this. What is that like? Okay, so it's a twofold question because as actors and as people in the industry, obviously stability is not necessarily at the forefront of what we do. It's very rare to have really solid stability. And so first of all, what has having stability done for you just as an actor? And how has it empowered you to make bigger decisions and take bigger risks?
Well, I did a lot of on-camera work at the top of my career. So like the first 10 years were gangbusters, and I had, I arrived in New York. 6 weeks later, I was understudying on Broadway, understudying Cynthia Nixon in The Real Thing. And then she left to go do Hurly Burly 3 months later, so I took over her part. So I had my Broadway debut and played it with the original cast, who was Glenn Close and Jeremy Irons. And it was like, I was this kid I was from Washington, D.C. I had no connections, I had no training, I had nothing, but I had a lot of balls. So, and I just thought, I had always wanted to be an actor, really, since I was about 6, so I just thought, oh, this is perfect. This is going exactly the way I'd planned. So that went on for about 10 years, and then everything really, really changed.
Yeah.
And I think it was because by then, so if I started when I was 17, so by 27, I could still play a teenager unless you put me next to a teenager. And then there was something in the eyes, like I had seen too much. I'd already been divorced once, and they were like, and then movie stars also started to do television. And so I always played the best friend, and then I would sort of start to play the friend of the friend. And then I stopped getting any pilots at all. So that's sort of a long way of saying without The Simpsons, I don't know how I would have survived those dry times. Creatively, Lisa Simpson is one of the best, most fabulous, multifaceted, funny, complicated, empathetic characters ever created for a female ever. And I am so deeply grateful that I get to be her voice, but I'm really only 33 1/3% of the success of that little girl, because in animation you have the writing and you have the acting and you have the animators, of course, and so it really is a collaboration in that way. And then, so I had an agent for 22 years, and then I fired him after I had this great idea for, it was actually sort of an unscripted series, and for football widows like me, who at the time I was married to a man who loved NFL football, and I was like, I can't ask you not to do that. How am I going to load in and sort of sit with you while you watch this game, et cetera, et cetera. One, I learned to knit, and two, I started to get invested in the characters, in the players, right? So it's exactly like a game, American Idol, The Greatest Race. You get invested in the people's story, and then you root for those people. So I had this idea to do this show, and my agent said, that's a great idea, Yeardley. How do we do that? And then I said, well, you're fired, because if I knew that, I wouldn't need you. What the fuck? I come up with the idea, all the elements, and then you tell me what else? I'm like, I don't know. So after that, then it was like changing deck chairs on the Titanic, trying to get an agent. I had The Simpsons, and they all wanted a piece of that Simpsons money, and it was a double-edged sword. One agent, I said, yes, okay, I'll give you a piece. They took $250,000, and I had 3 auditions. Wow. So, you go like, all right, well, now you don't get a piece, another agent, you have to prove it, and let's try, and that didn't work, and then I started to audition for one-page parts where the character was called Secretary. And I just thought, you know what, this isn't fun. This isn't fun anymore. So that's when I did a few other things. I wrote a novel, which got published, actually, which was great fun, and started Paperclip about 7 years ago. And it's interesting, because I'm actually, and I underwrite the company, so The Simpsons has given me that. And what I like is we're able to give directors and producers who don't necessarily have an enormous wealth of a huge, massive resume. If you come in and you pitch us an idea and it's sound and you're not an asshole and we get each other, then yeah, we're gonna give you that job, because somebody gave me a job when I was nobody. And I believe in people's vision. I believe in that meeting of minds. And so that's certainly one of the sort of behind-the-scenes gifts that The Simpsons has provided. And we've done 5 films now on micro budgets, and it's been good.
That's awesome. I just want to point out that at the beginning of this, before we sat down, I was talking to Yeardley, and I said, you know, the mentorship aspect. She goes, I don't really think I have anything to offer.
It's true. I was like, I don't know anything.
What?
Oh my God.
What? What?
I'm the last one standing. That's
Okay. So, Katie, I want to jump to you because it's kind of not parallel, but you played the same role for years and have had stability on Arrow. Didn't you? I mean, you went from like Arrow to The Flash, or vice versa.
Basically, yeah. I mean, again, but yes, on all of the DC shows. But before that, you know, I have been fortunate enough to work and support myself, if that's where you're going with this.
Well, it is, but it's also, I feel like that's also slightly a double-edged sword as an actor, because it's so special and so rare to be able to be on a show for that long and to have that stability. But were there times where you felt trapped, or you felt like, oh, I want to be doing so much more than what I'm doing right now?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right, and also why I have so much gratitude, even though again, the pandemic, as horrible as it was, the show had ended, and I went through a divorce, and then was out of work for a year, so it was sort of like back to when I was 17, and I moved out, and kind of. I come from a family, I'm third generation in Hollywood, but I have a very different story than what people assume. So I moved out at 17, and I have been on my own 100%, and I have worked until now, and it's been awesome. But given everything, again, divorces aren't cheap, which I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah, dude, they're not cheap, let me tell you.
No, they're not. I know.
Don't override your prenup. Don't
Oh,
do
wait,
that.
girl, there's something called a post-nup. Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We'll talk later.
That'll be another.
So I really realized over this pandemic, I've been acting for my whole life, but I love acting, and I love character development, and I love, again, collaborating with other people, but it isn't enough for me. It isn't, and again, when I directed my first episode, I was like, holy shit, you mean I get to create, obviously staying within this aesthetic of the show, but I was like, I get to create the whole world? Like, my shot, my visions, this is what I'm thinking. I remember one of our leads, she was killed off our show, and when I was directing, she hadn't been on for about 2 years, and we were bringing her back, and Willa Holland, she is so beautiful, the camera loves her, and I was like, she's so pretty, I really want to fuck up her face. Can we just give her a scar, like, across her face? And sure enough, the studio was like, okay, sure, actually, you want to do that and bring her back? And I'm like, yeah, she's been out there fighting, like, let's. Of course, she still looked beautiful and stunning, and no matter what, you can't make that girl look bad. But yeah, I just love creating, and then again with writing and writing this pilot, and now putting this pitch together, and I don't know, just being involved with other actors, writers, directors, developers, creators, people who just want to collaborate, and again, that's where it brings me to NFTs, because that's. For me, artists supporting artists and collaborating with other artists is really important. And my NFT drop, it was a nude portrait series, basically, of me rolling around in paint. It was like the day after I was in this short relationship with a boyfriend during lockdown in my building. Valentine's Day, I gave him this thing called Love is Art, which is this canvas, and they give you multicolors of paint, and you're supposed to make love to your partner on this canvas, and then you stretch it and you put it on your wall, and it's beautiful. I gave it to him for Valentine's Day. He broke up with me the next day. So I was like, oh, okay, well, Maria, what can we do? I'm
not rolling around in paint with you.
No. I was like, you know what? This is what I wanted. I'm gonna roll around in this paint. I'm still going through this divorce. It's been a year, we've been in lockdown, and I worked with the Riker brothers, Maria, and we did this black and white photo shoot. It's a tasteful, beautiful, series of me and talking about empowerment and talking about really what 2020 was about for me and what hopefully everybody else went inside and looked inside rather than looking outside an exterior, because I think that's when we get distracted and that's when we get anxious or depressed. It's really, you really can only find happy within yourself. And just encouraging people to own their power and empower them. So it's a portrait series called Me, She, We.
It's awesome.
Thanks.
And so, Maria, do we want to talk about NFTs now, or do we want to wait?
I think she's hinting to let's
Talk about, I mean, the thing with NFTs is there's a really beautiful kind of symbiotic relationship between NFTs and film. Funding a movie with NFTs is really difficult. It's really hard legally, so that's something that like a lot of people are like, I'm going to fund my movie with NFTs. You can get in a lot of trouble. So just like you got to look into it yourselves and see. It's just not easy in the United States. But where NFTs can come into play is to build community. You can do like a pre-raise for a movie where you can do some marketing around it while you're building a community, or you can incorporate things like if you associate NFTs to anything from a storyboard, or if you're doing kind of a superhero movie or an action movie, you can create them around your characters. And when you if people buy those NFTs, you give them give-backs. Like, you guys get to be part of the first screenings. You get the behind the scenes. And then you can build a community around your movies. And then you can build your franchise and your empire. And you can work with Marianne and her studios and all of these amazing things. So, yeah.
I think that's the part that kind of interests me, because NFTs to me are just like, I don't know. But I think it's really cool when we talk about filmmaking and incorporating that. I mean, as we're all artists and we're all creating different types of art, and there are different ways to kind of express ourselves through that. And so I think it's awesome that you're finding ways to connect other artists. And especially, I mean, it's not going away. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to continue to grow.
Well, that's the beauty with it, too. It's like this community of NFT space, it's artists supporting other artists and collaborating and coming together and having a vision and not having a third party involved. It's, it's true collaboration. And I think it's something.
And probably a lot of freedom, right?
Oh, yeah, entirely. Yeah, absolutely.
And the industry is going to shake itself out. It's the beginning, right? So we're going to have some weird stuff going on. Just always do your due diligence when buying NFTs, when working with people. It's going to shake itself out, but there are some really good people out there doing some really amazing things, and it's all about community, and it's all about give back and artists supporting artists. So that's really what drew me to it. The industry.
Okay.
Okay. NFT stands for non-fungible token. It's a certificate of authenticity, but artists collaborating and coming together with other artists.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Marina, you started in finance and construction, and now you own a movie studio, and with more to come. And you produced your first film just this past year. It was a Whitney Houston biopic. And I'm curious what the learning curve has been for you, because I know that you've told me that there was many things that you not being in the industry to then be sitting on a set and running a studio. What were some surprises for you that really stood out that you were like, whoa, I didn't realize it was like this? Or not?
No, there was a lot of them. I'll say that when you talked about stability, I am so passionate about music and photography, and my grandfather was way the other way, and he said, you can do finance and construction. So I kind of started there. So beginning of the pandemic, my children's father left, and so I'm like, shit, I'm going to have to take care of these kids by myself. And it kind of allowed me to expand where my head was at with that, and maybe do something that I knew that would be different, but be more flexible raising kids, not on a construction site at 5:30 in the morning. So from there till now, I mean, everything I've learned, under Jeff and Dennis was so shocking. It's so much like running a construction project. You raise money, a lot of it, and you hire union workers. I was very good at that. And you manage people, right? Manage money, manage people, budgets. It was no different. But then the creative side of it, which I'm not that creative. I mean, I am, but I can't draw a stick figure. Like, I mean, Dennis and Anthony.
There's more to creativity than just drawing.
I mean, they can rewrite a script in 20 minutes on a napkin, and I'm like, where did you just come up with that idea?
Right.
That's not me. I can raise money and manage a budget. But so, I mean, I found there was so much similar, but also very different, because working 14-hour days was a joy rather than wanting to bang my head against the wall.
Yeah.
And there's so much love and passion that we've all became such a family. And, you know, we all went to my Cape House, everyone in the movie, that you know, the A crew. And after 7 days, I'm like, okay, we got to go back to work. And no one wanted to leave. So we really enjoyed each other's company, which is a lot different than being in like a 9-to-5 office atmosphere.
I think that's the beauty of this industry. It's kind of the blessing and the curse, right? Because you start on a project, you get so close, you have all this camaraderie, and then it ends, or your show gets canceled unexpectedly, and you're just kind of like left with, oh, okay, I was just with these people 16-hour days every single day on location, and now I'm not.
You know, when you read a book that you really love and you fall in love with the characters, and then the book's over and it's kind of devastating.
Yeah.
And you think about it all the time. That's what leaving the Whitney set was like. I'm like, everyone had to go their own ways, and I'm like, where is everyone? It was so boring. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so not like normal 9-to-5 job.
No, not at all. I wanted to open it up to questions just for a little bit. If anybody has questions, yes, go ahead.
Where are your studios?
All in Boston. Yeah, all within 15 miles of the airport.
I have a question. Sure. Can we set up a meeting?
Definitely.
Awesome. Great. We'll exchange each other's emails.
So I have twin cousins, and they texted me this morning, and they said, I cannot believe you're sitting with Katie today. She's our favorite. Michael and Greg,
hilarious.
you are their favorite. They never, ever stop talking about you. And I'm like, that's who you were talking about all that?
Okay, well, we should definitely send them a picture.
Yes,
selfie.
we're gonna do that. Yep.
And then we'll be on an email chain. I love it.
Okay, I love it.
That's business.
How do you decide what movies film at or are going to film at your studios?
Well, so Compelling has quite a heavy slate.
Right.
And they are my partners, so they sort of have first run of Marina Bay and Quincy. The new studio, honestly, it's become a bidding war, because Lisa Strout, who's run the Massachusetts Film Office forever, is my biggest fan for some reason. And so she sends me everything. And then Charlie Harrington, who's the #1 location director ever, he is right in my wheelhouse. We just have a great relationship. So basically it's timing and money.
Yeah. Just
I
a
mean,
key.
But I mean, there are times when, I mean, I'm so new to this. Like, I know there's blocks that are open, and like with the award for the pitch yesterday, I'd like to support whoever does win that, and sort of I've worked for a year creating a fund, an entertainment fund, so it's a real estate-backed security, but it also allows I can pull that money for content. So someone that's not, you know, as fortunate or as strong in the financial side to raise money, if I believe in the project, I will help them with that and sort of fund it. So I think that's kind of a different take, because I want to support, especially female and new young artists, to follow the path, because a lot of people ask me, you know, how did you get here? And I mean, the Boston Globe interviewed me, and they said, how long have you dreamed of being a producer? I'm like, oh, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe? I didn't know I was going to end up here. It just kind of happened. But it wasn't really a dream of mine. I felt like the universe could just kind of put me here, and it's just been so beautiful. But so I guess it's just a timing thing with the studio, but I'll have 2 more definitely by the end of the year, hopefully 3, so 5 in total, and it's a lot of square footage, post-production facility. I'm building a school at the moment.
A school?
Yeah, so a trade school. So
Love it.
grip, lighting, from the surrounding high schools, children that know they're not going to go to college but want, a union wage after they turn 18 and finish their apprenticeship, they can start an internship in my studios while we're filming. And then as soon as they turn 18, they come on in a union paying job as if you were in it for 20 years. So
That's
I've gotten a lot of
incredible.
support from, the mayor and the governor, but it's been really cool.
Awesome. Questions? Yes.
Seems like the imposter syndrome is very common in this industry. I'm curious how you guys have experienced that and how you dealt with it.
It's a good question. Did everybody hear that? Okay.
I'll start.
I mean, I can name a moment today, like with you.
I think I do think I don't have the imposter syndrome so much as an actor, but I never really wanted to be a producer. I never wanted to be this multi-hyphenate. Unlike Katie, I actually was quite happy being an actor. I'm like, oh, that's what I love that. That's what I do. I love that. And then I was slow to sort of adding things to the list of my descriptors, right? So, and I think that if you aren't driven, if you aren't pulled to that, I'm pulled to the people I work with, and I think it's important. Most of the films that we do aren't developed for me as an actor at all, although I do try to do a sort of Hitchcockian drive-by in each of them. So I'd like to have a small part, just like, hey, still here. So I think if you're not, if it's not something that you go, oh, this is it. Oh my God, that you're more inclined to feel as though I'm not sure I really belong here. I know I serve a purpose. I tick a certain box in my own company, hopefully not just the financial box, but I give a very specific kind of note when we get scripts sent to us or scripts in development. I do a thing that none of the other great partners I have do, but it still feels like, I don't know, you guys could probably do without that too, though. For me, I think it's that I feel as though it's not really the thing that drives me. I still really, really love being an actor. I just have had to sort of change boats midstream and figure out how to get back to that thing in the way that I used to do when, the first 10, 12 years of my career. So that's sort of my excuse.
Okay. So, right. I'm quite the contrary to that. I didn't really know. I mean, again, I became an actor. It's in my family. I was in theater growing up. I didn't really know I could, it's just sort of what I did to survive, to support myself. And then, I loved it, but I didn't really know I could do more. And then once I did, and I tapped into going to the WB Directors Program, I was like, holy shit, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And same with writing. And I don't know, it's that pull that you're talking about. It's like, I love acting too. It's just, I was in the right industry, just maybe not necessarily the right part of it, or I want to do it all. So I just really like creating.
So, I started as an actor. I never talk about it because it didn't pull me anywhere. I actually just stepped out and started writing and loved writing, but I refused to show anyone my writing because I grew up in Montreal, Canada. I learned how to read and write in French. On my very first essay ever in English, I wrote S.A on the cover because I didn't even know how to write essay. From that, thanks, guys. That was a very traumatic moment. And my grammar, thank you. My grammar was so bad, I refused to write. I was so horrified. I loved the story I wrote, but my grammar was so bad that I got such a shit grade that I was traumatized to show anyone my writing. And daddy issues, I showed to my dear friend. His name is Tom Shadyac, and he's such a wonderful human, doing amazing things just for kindness and compassion. And he was like, this is really funny. This is really good. And I was like, really?
It's really funny.
Thanks, girl. And it like and here and this helps me sit in my power a lot, like a lot more, because I am, confidence was a little shaky with me. So I felt like an imposter when I was acting. I'd be on a set working with amazing people and loving the collaboration, but not what I was doing and feeling like I needed to be somewhere else. Writing, I can sit for 12 hours not getting paid and just be on my, like, just going to town. Same with directing the documentary. I'm sitting there, it's a nonprofit, no one's getting paid. And I love it. I'll do it every day.
Being
So.
in flow.
Flow.
I guess I don't really know what imposter syndrome means in this scenario because I'm not an actor.
It doesn't mean, it's just feeling like you are.
Sort of like
Okay.
people will find out that you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I have a lot of that.
Like you're an
No, I have
imposter.
that, yeah.
And that you're faking it.
Yeah, well, actually, Jeff was like, do you want a speaking role in this movie? I'm like, no. No, I don't. I guess maybe it's a confidence thing, but no. I said my role is behind that camera and nothing to do. But I guess there is when you walk on a set for the first time, especially a $100 million movie, and having no experience, a lot of people would say things, and I'm like, I do not have a clue what you just said, but I'm going to pretend that I do. And Mackenzie, who is my COO and does everything with me, her father and mother were like, Mackenzie, how do you guys don't know how to run a movie studio? And I'm like, well, Tom, we're going to figure it out, just like anything, right? And we did. We figured it out. But, the director intimidated the hell out of me because everything she said, I'm like, I don't know what you mean, but I'll go ask and I'll get back to you. So, it's been a crazy learning curve, but learned a lot and had so much fun doing it. So I'll just keep learning. Like Nemo, just keep swimming. Yeah.
Katie, I relate to you a lot with being an actor, and then when I directed my first short, I was standing on set and I felt for the first time in a long time, because I started acting when I was 16, and loved it and really kind of only knew that. But for the first time, I was on set and I felt like I was in my purpose. Like I was like, nope, this is it. Like I clicked in and knew that was like where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I
that's
really
awesome.
know that feeling. And as far as imposter syndrome for me, all the time with different scenarios, but recently I've started producing more, and I was asked to produce a project that I did not create, I was not really involved with. It's a virtual reality project. They hired me to come on in Austin, and it was the first time I was like hired as a producer. And I had these moments where I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm doing, but for me, it's less about like imposter syndrome, and it's more about not knowing my value. And that's a big one, and that's kind of something that I think as humans we really kind of deal with on the daily, is just like feeling like we aren't holding ourselves up to like our highest value and our highest potential, whether it be financially or however, whatever role you're in. But for me, I had this rude awakening because I was on set, we had just wrapped, and the executive producer came up to me and he said, we could not have done this project without you. We can't do it without you moving forward. We appreciate you so much. And it was like crazy to me that was a shock to me.
That someone thanked you and appreciated.
Yeah,
said, thank you,
and
we
that I
need
was
you.
like, felt like I needed that validation to say like, oh, I actually am good at my job.
Well, right, and you found your purpose. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I think we all kind of deal with that, just not really feeling like we are holding ourselves up to our own standard, like our own value.
Which is also why mentorship and surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up. She literally made me do a whole pep talk in the mirror in the bathroom. She did.
It was like Cool Runnings. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You see power.
Yeah, and at first I was like,
We recorded the whole thing. It was ridiculous.
She recorded the whole thing, not we. She.
I was like, I need you to come in here, Maria. Come in the bathroom.
She saged me, and
I
I
was like, you are a badass bitch, okay? You have got to own this. Because she is. Like, I look up to you. You're incredible.
and I look up to you.
All of you guys. I mean, everyone. I love this. I think this is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think, genuine camaraderie and creativity and coming
Yeah,
together.
I mean, definitely finding yourself. And this is the first job career I've ever had in my life where I get up and I'm so happy. Like, this is my purpose, even though I didn't study or knew that's what I wanted to do, but this is it.
Yeah.
And knowing that finally is so cool.
And it's nice to hear that from someone who works on your side as well, because you hear a lot of talk about flow when it comes to like, oh, writing and acting, but it's so nice to hear it from like the business side, just being in flow. It's nice.
Oh,
it's very
it's so great.
inspiring too. That's incredible. Like, good for you. That's awesome.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes.
Speaking of value, like, especially here it's great to hear from women who, like, you're in control of capital, you know, and it's like such, I mean, this business is obviously so expensive even if you're making, you know, small stuff. And I'm just like wondering if there, like, this could be an anecdote answer, but like the thing that you put, that like, something that like you put money into that like keeps you up at night, or like what was like the biggest lesson in terms of like once you were working with budgets, like a monetary pitfall that like you just did not see coming?
Well, I think producing, but directing, you have to be resourceful, and you just. I mean, for me, I would be like, well, I don't know. I just will figure it out. I try to like click into that other side of my brain. I'm gonna leave. Yeah,
Sorry.
answer the rest of that.
So I'd say the biggest, most shocking thing in this last movie was an $8 million COVID budget, which we had to, it was 10 to start, but I think we took our locations from 174 to around 150 because that budget was so high. And I just thought about that money as like, I know we were keeping everyone safe, but it's a lot of money. And it was shocking, like that budget. It felt like throwing it away. But I mean, there's a lot of things like when it comes to raising money and budgeting a film that you don't expect. Hotel budgets for A-list at the Four Seasons were not cheap. But there's also, we found ways to sort of minimize things that you think, oh, well, we could do that in a different way. So it was a team effort to sort of get some of the numbers down. But other than that, I don't have too much experience with it. It's no different than a construction project because you always go over, and the timeline and the budget always is 10 times what you think. So I was like, oh, this is expected.
But also with raising money for a movie for the doc, because we had someone else come in and bring in the money, and we realized we under budgeted just a little bit, and we missed flights at one point and had to drive from one airport to another, which cost money. So it was a whole thing. But just get it started.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
get the initial funding, get it started. We're 3/4 in the can, and now it's much easier for us to put a sizzle together and go do another raise. It's just do it.
Just keep swimming.
Do it. Yes.
Just
Exactly.
keep swimming.
And the tax credits help too. Great in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. We just got them permanent, so.
Oh,
that
you
was a-
did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I fought for a good year with the Speaker of the House and eventually the governor to. They were going to sunset in 23, and my business would not be a thing after that. So I said, "You got to really help me." And after a lot of negative, I got to the positive, and we finally made them permanent in Massachusetts. So it's pretty great.
awesome.
30%. It's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Yeardley, you said you deal with micro budgets.
Yes. So we always do the budget with all the bells and whistles, and then one of my partners, Jordan Foley, comes in and strips that all down. But practically speaking, right?
Sure.
But my thing is always, one of the first movies we did, the lunch was terrible. And I'm like, listen to me. We are asking these people to work for so little. We have to feed them. So the next several films, the food was much, much better. And it's so important. Like you can upgrade the things that make people feel appreciated, but also be really mindful of gathering together a crew that understands that it's run and gun. This is what we're doing. We're not able to work at Marina Studios. So
Well, you might be now.
I hope so, one day. So you have to find people who are like-minded, right? And like we have a fantastic camera operator that we've, DP, that we've worked with on several films, and he loves the sort of MacGyverness of, we can do it this way. Oh, we only need that many lights. Now we have a great gaffer who has his own truck, and he's sort of semi-retired, and so he brings his guy, and he's like, oh, fuck yeah, I can do that. Listen to me, I'll be ready in 20 minutes. So you find the people who are also excited by this process. Just manage everybody's expectations, I think. It doesn't mean that you know, once in a while you get somebody who's a big grump and they're like, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm like, I'm really sorry about that. This is what we're doing. It's what we were always doing. But also, always, every day we would start a day of shooting saying, basically, respect and kindness to all. Everyone is doing their very best. And that goes a long way. And we've been quite lucky in that regard. But it's not easy. My God, it's a grind, you know.
Which is exactly why your motto is no assholes.
That's right, because life is too short
Yeah.
and the work is too hard.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
no assholes allowed is super important, which means that even with, like on one project we met with a really big production company, and they wanted to co-finance, but we just were not in sync. Like you could tell right from the meeting that they were assholes, and it's really hard to look. It feels like looking the gift horse in the mouth, but trust me, trust your gut about that, because your days will never feel longer if you partner with somebody who doesn't get it and doesn't want to go with you on this particular journey. It's just too hard. And you will find the person who gets what you want to do and wants to do this with the amount of enthusiasm and passion that you have, and that will feel so much better, and it will be worth the wait. It really, really will.
Yep.
I agree with that.
On that note, we're going to close out this portion, and then the female filmmakers who were selected to be paired up with our wonderful mentors, you can please file in up here, and then for everybody else, there is Prosecco and all the things back there for a little bit of a mixer and you know, get to know you event.
I just want to
Well,
say
thank
thank you
you,
to
yeah.
Alex for assembling this. What a great
Thank
thing
you
it
guys.
is.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you
Thank
so
you, guys.
much. Let's get up. Can we do it in front of the? Yeah.